Hello, students. Welcome back to the subject of production and operations management. We have been dealing with unit number 2, that is facility location, since last 7 parts. Facility location, to brief, is a place wherein the industrialist or an entrepreneur wants to start his business. When it comes to a production unit, it is very important to select the location because there are so many factors that affects the location. We have already checked out so many aspects related to facility location in our previous sessions. We are dealing right now with the process of selecting the correct kind of location for any production unit. This decision is very crucial, very critical on the part of a businessman or an entrepreneur. Why? Because it involves a lot of investment, a lot of brooding is required, a lot of care should be taken up so that one does not end up in choosing a wrong location. That is why a logical process is followed wherein step by step the entrepreneur enters into the process and ends up into selecting a perfect location for him. The same selecting process we have seen quite in detail, the stages we have seen rather quite in detail in the previous lectures. We are going to take up the topics ahead in this particular session. As you all know, these are the 8 parts of the content, or we can say the content of the unit that we are dealing, right? We are at the 6th point, that is steps in selection of the plant location. Have dealt with already 3 points concerned with the urban and the rural areas, the suburban areas that one must select or that may be suitable for any kind of industry. In that case, let us go ahead with the difference between, in this particular session we'll be checking out the difference between the suburban areas, or we call it urban area, and the rural areas. Let us check it out. In the previous lecture, we have studied the process or steps that are involved in the selection of proper site for the unit. We have already seen that the decision related to the site selection cannot be taken up haphazardly. In fact, the entrepreneur needs to undergo a logical process so that to arrive at a correct decision. For this, there are 4 stages. The 4 stages are here, that is deciding on a domestic or international location, selection of the region at the second point or at the second stage. The third stage tells him the selection of the community or a locality, right? And in which we have already studied that there are 3 different options available for him. That is, he can either go for rural site, he can select the suburban site, or he can even go for the city area. At the 4th stage, he has to select the exact site. Let us go ahead with the other topics. Here we have already discussed the first few 3 stages of the selection process. Let us study the difference of urban and rural area in this 4th stage in detail. What is urban area? What is rural area? Now the slides that we are going to study tells us about the difference between these two, the basic difference. For the layman, it may be the urban area is considered to be the city area. For the rural area, it is the village area. This is the simple definition or simple understanding of urban area and rural area. Now, what are the basic differences? That is what we are going to check out here under the different points of difference. Let us see it one by one. We follow with urban area as the first part and we'll compare it with the rural area. Now, when it comes to the meaning or saying what is the basic difference between urban area and rural area, then it is the availability of the local market. Due to large population, the local demand for the product is fairly high as far as urban area is concerned. Urban area, I repeat, it's a city area, fully equipped, fully facilitative. On the other hand, the rural area, the marketplace is far away from the industries, therefore cost of distribution of finished goods is high. That means the local market is available in the urban area, whereas in the rural area the marketplace is quite at a far place. Let us come to the point of difference number 2, labor. Diversified labor is available in plenty because there is the urban area is a combination of so many people together. That means it's a combination of so many communities living together in a big city, and that is why diversified labor is easily available. Whereas in the rural area, it is quite difficult to get the skilled labor. Yes, as far as the unskilled labor is concerned, yes, you may have it in ample, but the skilled labor, supposingly a specific skilled labor you need, that you may not get it always from the rural area. For that you will have to approach the urban area. So the varieties of labor available in the urban area is quite high as compared to the rural area. Next point of difference is transport facility. Enough transport facilities are available, we know it, and on the other hand, adequate transport facilities are not always available in the rural area. That's a basic point of difference between rural and urban. Again, allied industries, that means proximity to allied industries and service unit may be there. Allied means helping industry. There may be so many helping industries and services that we may be able to get it easily in the urban area, which may fall short in the rural area. There is absence of allied industries in the rural area. Let's go to the fifth one, that is availability of the facilities. We all know that we live in an urban area, we know it better, that there are various educational, recreational and social facilities that are available in the urban areas very easily. Whereas in the rural area, various educational, recreational and social facilities are not available. Right? There is a mistake there. It is not available easily there. Let us go to the point number 6 of difference. It is the cost of land. As we all know, urban area, the cost of land as compared to rural is always high because the availability of the land is limited. That is why the cost of land is always higher. Let us go ahead. The cost of land is often high as sufficient land is not available, which creates a limitation on the arrangement of plants and machineries. Because the land is available or land is not available in a sufficient quantity, we may not always have the piece of land whatever we want in a particular area. We want a land or we want a piece of land, a large piece of land that may not be available, and even if it is available, the cost may be quite high. Let us go to the next part, that is a rural area. As compared to the urban area, the cost of land in the rural area is quite cheaper. The basic reason is the sufficient land is available at a cheaper rates. That makes the rural area or the land in the rural area cheaper than that of the urban area. 7th point of difference is restriction on construction. We have often seen that there are number of restrictions that may be levied on in the city areas, right, as far as the multi-storied buildings are concerned, or maybe the horizontal development of the land is concerned. There is always the restrictions that is being placed by the municipal corporation. So many restrictions on the construction facilities that may be there in the urban area, whereas there are very few restrictions on the constructions of factory building in the rural area. So rural area is a better choice at that time. Next comes up is availability of public utility services. There may be enough facilities for water supply, drainage, firefighting, police protection, etc. that may be easily available in the urban areas, whereas the municipal corporations or maybe the municipal facilities or public services are not available in enough quantity. The point number 9 tells us about the communication services. Naturally, the communication services in the urban area is prompt also, and it is good to get also. Whereas in the rural area, the prompt and good communication services are not always available, though the development that has taken place in the last few years in India has also provided quite a good services as far as communication and telecommunication is concerned in the rural areas as well. But when you compare it with urban area, rural area is lacking these services to many extent. Next comes up are the taxes rates. The rate of taxes are comparatively high in urban area, we all know that, and the rate of taxes are low in the rural areas. As far as the labor cost is concerned, the cost of labor is generally high in the uh, urban area. Why? Because the standard of living of the people is high, and that is why that helps the labor to bargain a good rates as far as their labor cost is concerned. So labor cost is always high in the urban area, and as compared to rural area, the cost of labor is cheap, right, in the rural area, because you get people in empty, you get unskilled labor in ample, right. So what happens is much of the labor is available and their cost comes up quite a cheap. When it comes to the availability of the other facilities, naturally the banking, credit, and the insurance facilities are available in enough quantity as far as urban area is concerned, and there is absence of bank facilities, credit facilities, and insurance facilities as far as rural area is concerned. That is why we get more facilities in the urban areas, and that becomes a better choice when it comes to getting this kind of services, say like credit facilities, or getting the financial institutions for the help and loans and credits. Insurance facilities are quite in detail and quite much available in the urban areas, whereas these facilities lack in the rural area. Let us go to the point number 13. It is labor turnover. What is labor turnover? Let us get the idea clear first. Labor turnover means once the labor joins one of the institute or factory, they keep on changing their jobs. That means they keep on changing their factories from one unit to the another one and to the another one. That is said to be labor turnover. Now this turnover ratio is higher in the urban area. Why? Because a large number of industries are available there, and that is why labor get a choice to bargain their own rates. So if they get a good earning in the other industry, they'll definitely shift themselves to the other industry very easily, and that is what is said to be labor turnover. So as compared to rural area, labor turnover is quite high. In the rural areas, labor force is quite stable. What is the reason behind it? The simple reason is that there are hardly opportunities to work available in the rural area. At that time, they don't have much options left out with them, and that is why they'll stick to, or they'll remain stable with one particular industry. Yes, the trade union movement is quite strong in the urban areas, so there are more chances of taking up or getting into the problems like strikes or lockouts, whereas trade union movement is not that strong in a rural area. That may be because of the lack of education, it may be the lack of knowledge about the laws, and that is why the trade union movement is not that strong. Coming to the point number 15, it is training facilities. Development of training facilities for the workers is available in the urban areas, as well as management institutes for the executives are also available. What happens is that executives also get the training or the developmental chances. On the other hand, the workers also gets a good amount of training facilities in the urban area. This is a major difference, and that is lack in the rural areas. There is absence of training facility and management institutes. We don't get it often there. આવી બધી ટ્રેનિંગ ઇન્સ્ટિટ્યૂટ્સ હોય કે ટ્રેનિંગ ફેસિલિટીઝ હોય કે મેનેજમેન્ટ ઇન્સ્ટિટ્યુશન્સ હોય, એ બધી રૂરલ એરિયામાં લોકેટ નથી થતી હોતી, અથવા તો ત્યાં એની ફેસિલિટીઝ કમ્પેરેટિવલી ઓછી મળે છે. તો વોટ હેપન્સ ઇઝ ધ લેબર ડુ નોટ ઓર્ડર ઇફ વેન યુ વોન્ટ ટુ ટ્રેન યોર લેબર ઓર યુ wish to take up a good training sessions with them, then the urban area is a better option because we get all these facilities easily there. As far as the 16th one is concerned, the last point of difference, no, there are more points. There are, I think, 20 points. So here, when it comes to 16th point, it is transport facility. Sufficient transportation of passengers by road and railways are available for the employees. Naturally, the passengers can easily transport. There are road transportations available, railway transportations available, local transportation and conveyance is available very easily. So what happens because of that? The employees get better chance to travel, and it becomes easy for them to travel from one place to another. As compared to the city area, the passenger transportation facilities are inadequate. So most of the time it happens that employees would not like to take themselves to the rural areas because of the lack of transportation facilities available there. 17th point comes up as the point of storage facility. That means sufficient storage facilities, like for the specific type of goods you may need the cold storage facilities, or the specific environment you need, and for that the storage, this kind of storage facilities or specific environment may be easily available in the urban area, and storing warehouse facilities are not available in the rural area. If you try to go to the rural areas or maybe the village and you try to find out the cold storages for your goods, then that may be a problematic thing. That is why the storage facility with specific requirement, with specific technology, is easily available in the urban areas as compared to rural. 18th point comes up as pollution problem. We all know the pollution problem is always higher in the urban area because of the concentration of many industries, and because of this it creates the problem related to air, water pollution. There are more problems of sanitation problems. Maybe most of the time it is congested areas that are developed, the slums are developed, and that creates a lot of problem related to pollution. When it comes to rural area, rural environment is conducive. Conducive means it is convenient and comfortable for the health of the workers, as there are less amount of, or there is less amount of air and water pollution. The problems faced by the rural population related to pollution is always less as compared to the that of the urban area. Next, 19th comes up is said to be wartime worries. That means for the industrial cities, the cities in which the industries have developed quite a large, those are the most targeted areas as far as the air attack is concerned during the wartime, whereas less risk may be faced by the rural area in the wartime, because the enemy may not be very much interested in damaging the rural areas, considering that there may not be industrial backup there, or there may not be industrial development available there, whereas in the city area industrial development is fast, and that becomes a soft target to be clicked by during the air attacks, especially during the time of war. Next, and the last one, that is 20th point, that is government policies. Many times to avoid the concentration of industries in few areas, government imposes more restrictions on the part of municipal corporation or local self-government, or maybe state government may be there as far as urban areas are concerned. They are very rigid about development of the industries, maybe because many industries have already developed there. The rules may be, or the policies may be really strong and rigid for the urban areas, whereas in the rural area what happens is that government provides more of the financial assistance. It provides the land at the cheaper rates, maybe to attract the industrialists or industries in the rural areas. So what happens is there may not be too much of concentration of industries in the particular urban area. So what happens is we can easily shift them to the rural areas. So government policies, what we need to understand is government policies are rigid in the urban areas, and in the rural areas the government policies are quite say relaxive, or we can say that it is more government is interested in development of the rural areas, and that is why more amount of financial aids or assistance may be given for the development of such kind of areas, and that is why we can say that the government policies in the rural area may be not that rigid as compared to that of the urban areas. Here we end up with the basic difference between the urban and the rural. As far as the points are concerned, we have learnt as many as 20 points of difference. Now that we have studied all the three possibilities of selecting the locality from urban, suburban or rural, the entrepreneur needs to decide on the final, and that is the fourth stage that we are approaching, is said to be selection of the exact site. We have already seen that out of three localities available to him, that is he may go for urban area, he may have the option of selecting the suburban areas, or at times he may even have the option of going for the rural areas. When he can go for, or which area can be selected, that totally depends on him, because he has got the option, he has got the choice. There are various factors, there are advantages, disadvantages of this particular three areas we have already seen earlier, and being the entrepreneur, whichever area favors him the most, that becomes his selection. But when he selects that area or that particular site, is said to be the fourth stage, that is selection of exact site. Now this is the last stage of the selection process, that is the fourth and the last step after choosing the locality is to choose the actual site where the production unit can be actually set up. The selection of the site is based on the following factors. Now that we have seen that whether one can go with the first point, that is international or domestic, once he has selected that, he can select a particular region, that may be east, west, north, south, any region that he finds favorable, right? Then after selecting the region, he can select the particular community or locality, that is we have already seen, wherein he has three options of getting into urban, suburban or rural. And in the fourth stage, that is the selection of exact site, that means he is actually taking up into a particular place in a particular region, in a particular locality, and that becomes the exact site for him, wherein he wishes to set up his own business. Here few factors that we need to understand, that when he selects, when he comes to this fourth section or fourth stage, he has got few factors that he must consider. Few factors means few determinants, અમુક એવા પરિબળ છે જેને સ્ટડી કરવા જોઈએ, અને પછી he selects his own site. They are said to be number 1, soil, size and topography. Here we are talking about three things: the type of soil, the size of the land, or maybe the topography, that means the geographical condition, right? When it comes to soil, what is the specific thing that he keeps in mind? For the factories producing engineering goods, the fertility of land may not be of the concern. Naturally, when suppose if I'm a manufacturer of any kind of engineering product, then I need to not think about how fertile my land is going to be. But for the agro-based industry, a fertile soil is necessary for strategic plant locations. But if I'm going to be an agro-based company, then I'll surely take up my unit to such a section or maybe such a kind of site I would like to select, wherein the soil is actually very fertile and from where I can get the maximum output, right? So that is how soil matters. When it comes to size, that is again the area of the lands should be such so that we can accommodate not only the existing setup but also can consider the future scope of expansion programs as well. Thus the size matters like this. That means if you have a small piece of land, then for the time being process or for the time being production, it may be fine enough. But if you want to go for the plans somewhere in future, say after 5-10 years, you want to expand your unit, you want to extend it, you want to get more number of products to be produced, maybe more varieties of product you want to produce, then the land area of the land may matter to you. So area or the size, in this sense we must consider it while selecting the exact site. Mind you, we are talking about the fourth and the last stage of selection process. The next one comes up is said to be the topography of the place. That deserves consideration to some extent. Why? Because there may be flat region, there may be hilly region, rocky region, rough land, smooth land. All these things may matter because it may at times prove to be unsuitable for the plant location, because a great deal of expenditure is then to be made on leveling it, right? So it depends that which type of land do you need, what is your requirement, and accordingly we'll try to avoid hilly, rocky and maybe rough land, because once you try to develop this kind of land, the actual expense may be at very high. Again, getting transportation facilities may be difficult in such situation. Naturally, if you are selecting the rocky region or maybe the hilly region, you are trying to get your unit somewhere 3000 feet above the sea level, then what happens is the transportation that you need to develop, or even which you need it may be very tough to develop all those facilities at that point of time, right? So moreover, providing the infrastructure facilities may also be very difficult in this region. So topography, size and the type of soil matters when you select the exact site. That was the first factor that we have seen. The second one comes up is said to be waste disposal facilities. See, you must have noticed that it may be any type of factory. factory always discharges or disposes something or the other as the waste material. If the proper facilities are not available, it becomes very difficult, because every now and then you cannot dump your waste in the environment. There are so many laws, and as such also it's very dangerous when you just dispose your waste without having any prior planning. So once you want to start with your factory, you know that there will be a kind of residual means kind of remaining or waste available, or at the end of the process you may create waste. Then at that time proper waste disposal facilities have to be there. Thus the problem of disposal of effluents means the remainings is common in many industries, like maybe say chemical, sugar, steel or leather industry. It is very important that the location of the plant should have disposal system available. For all the types of solid liquid waste, there should be proper disposal system. Thus this is very important consideration on the part of entrepreneur while selecting the exact site. So once I know that what type of manufacturing I am going to do, what type of effluents or maybe the waste may be there, am I taking a correct site or selecting a correct site, am I having a proper disposal facilities available there or not? Yes, these are such points which I must consider before selecting the site. So here we end up the site selection process, which has already been discussed under the 4 stages with the different consideration. Now what we shall discuss are the few practical issues while selecting the site generally faced by the entrepreneur, right? When we talk about the issues, it includes the recent trends, that there are so many recent trends now available. In the last few years, we have seen that whatever the common issues were there dealt by the industries are no more there. There are so many trends, recent trends that are available, that gives the entrepreneur a much more better chance to select his unit or select the location for the unit. Here we will check with the recent trends, and then we may sum up the lecture. Let us see what are the recent trends. Before that, what are these recent trends? Let us study it. In the current industrial environment, the entrepreneur hardly face the problems relating to the traditional factors like market proximity, nearness to the sources of material, labor availability, etc. That means in the recent times, see, when you know that market is not domestic market is not just the kilometers away from your production unit. It may be in the any part of the world that your customers may be available. So proximity to market is no more an issue for any industry or any businessman. Again, nearness to the sources, the transportation facilities have developed so fast in most of the regions, so that the getting the raw materials or being beside the sources is not a big deal. Labor availability, all throughout the world you can get the labor, you can outsource them, you can get it from anywhere, and that is why that's not a big issue for them. The locational trends have changed substantially, as we know, and have become more complex. Then what is complex here? The trends are changing every day. The new things have come up, the new aspect of selecting the location has come up, and that is why the locational trends that we will study are all said to be the recent ones, from which any recent trend that may be adopted by the businessman and he can select his own location. Those trends we will see now. These practices performed by the entrepreneur are known as recent trends in the selection of industrial location or site. Here we are going to check out, say, with 5 or 6 such type of trends, which tells us that after studying these trends, or after taking into consideration what type of industry you are going to have, what type of product do you have, what type of factors you are going to consider, out of the available recent trends we can select any one out of it, right? And that is what is said to be the recent trends, or what is it in the vogue. Few of the recent trends in the selection of the industrial locations are described as under. As I told you, there are as many as 6 points, right? That is, one by one we are going to see it with all these recent trends. Number 1, it is priority for the suburban areas. Initially what used to happen, that the trend was that we may select from any of the city area. Why city area? Because it is facilitative. Most of the time it is facilitative, and it becomes easy for any of the unit to go for the city areas, because so many things are, or the amenities are available as compared to suburban areas. But now in the recent trend, suburban areas are also growing fast. That is why the industrialists show their preferences for the suburban areas as the site for the establishment of a new unit or relocation of existing one. The industrial policy of the government, why this has become the hot favorites for the industries, because the industrial policy of the government does not permit the establishment of a new unit or expansion of the existing unit in one city area only. At the same time, the infrastructure facilities are developed in the suburban area. See, there may be too much of concentration of few type of industries in the city area, and at that time it is the best to select the suburban areas, and even the government helps to develop the suburban area. So that may be the recent trend number one. Number two, industrial development in notified backward areas. Not only the suburban areas, but even the backward areas are given the chance to be selected as the site. How? In order to develop a balanced kind of regional development, the central government as well as the state government has notified certain backward areas. Different types of incentives like cash subsidy, tax reliefs, financial assistance with low interest rate, cheaper land, and even the power supply, etc. are provided. So many such areas have been developed substantially in the recent times. In the recent times, we all must have observed that industrial development has taken up in the most backward area. Why? Because government always wishes to have the balanced regional growth. Balanced regional growth means only city area should develop and not the rural area. That should not be the concern. In fact, the concern of the government is always to see or to decrease the regional imbalance, and that can be done with the development of such kind of industries in the backward regions or maybe the rural area. So that becomes this trend number two. So we have checked out in this slide two types of trend, that is priority for the suburban areas, and even the backward areas can be taken up or selected as the site. Third one comes up is establishment of the industrial estates. See, you must have heard the term industrial estates. If not, then just let me brief it out. What is industrial estate? Industrial estate is what? It's a piece of a vast land, right? It is subdivided into different industrial plots wherein the factory sheds are constructed, and such kind of sheds may be then purchased or may be leased by the industries. What is the best thing about the industrial estate is that the self-government or maybe the state government takes their own initiative to develop such kind of industrial estates. See, if we talk about GIDC Metoda or we talk about Shapar Verawar, then they are such a kind of industrial estates or such a kind of area wherein only the industries have developed, and there the state government or the local government has taken up all the initiatives to see that this comes up as the industrial zone, right? So that is said to be the industrial estate. Let me even add one point here, that in 1960 this the concept of industrial estate came from UK, United Kingdoms, right? And we should be proud that first industrial estate ever in India was developed in Rajkot somewhere in 1960, right? So this is how it is. What it is, it's nothing but a piece of land in which government takes up the initiatives and builds up all those facilities required basically by the industries, so that industries can come in such kind of zone and can enjoy all the benefits. The government of India has planned a national policy for the development of industrial estate. It assigns the responsibility of the development of the industrial estate to the state government, in which the state government or the state development corporation has developed many industrial estates practically in almost all the districts of the states. Industrial estates have also been developed by the private entrepreneurs or maybe by Chamber of Commerce. The plots of land along the factory sheds and the infrastructural facilities are developed in the industries, estates and are sold to the prospective promoters. And the establishment of such industrial estates has greatly affected the location of industries. So instead of taking any random industry or any random plots, what is most beneficial for the industrialist is to take up a kind of shade or maybe take up a kind of plot, buy or lease such a kind of plot in the industrial estates. What will be the benefit he'll get? He'll get all the facilities. Primary, all the facilities are available because government has already developed it prior, right? So this is said to be trend number 3, wherein the establishment of the industries is there in the industrial estate. Let us go to the fourth one, that is decentralization of industries. Under the conscious industrial policy of the government, concentration of industrial units is prevented through licensing policy. New units are not permitted to be started in certain industrially congested areas. Similarly, existing units either establish their additional plants in a less developed area or sometimes relocate the whole unit in such area. This is what is called decentralization. Centralization means getting it together at one place, and decentralized means distributing it. So once the government realizes that there are too many industries in one concentrated area, then what will happen is they'll try to restrict it. They'll try to restrict it through a licensing policy, that no more permissions would be granted to take up any industry in the already congested area. Then what is the option available to them? તમે ઇન્ડસ્ટ્રીયલ એરિયામાં તમે એમને નથી જવા દેતા, તો what is the option available? Then you can take up this existing unit, or you can use any additional unit to altogether a new location. This is also the trend. What happens because of that? એક તો તમે નવી લોકેશન પર લઈ જાઓ છો એટલે ત્યાંના જેટલા બેનિફિટ્સ કે જેટલા બધા ફેસિલિટીઝ છે that can be easily sorted out or easily availed. And on the other hand, which is very important, is કે already congested area છે એમાં આપણે વધારે યુનિટ્સનો ઉમેરો ના કરીએ. So that is fourth type of trend, that is decentralization of industries. Fifth comes up is increased role of government in the decision of location of industry. See, government takes a lot of efforts, and it takes up a lot of the initiatives in selecting the site. How this government helps? That is, government through its persuasive and compulsive methods greatly influences the location decision in the recent times. It provides certain attractive incentives to the promoters to establish their unit in less developed areas. At the same time, it does not permit excessive industrialization in certain areas. See, there is a lot of interference as far as the government is concerned and industries taking its site decision is concerned. What happens is, already concentrated area ની અંદર તમે ઇન્ડસ્ટ્રી લઈ જવા માંગો છો, તો government may restrict you, may deny you, may not permit to you. Instead, what they'll do, they'll take you, or they'll give more attractive incentives or offer you more attractive incentives if you take up those units into the backward areas or less developed areas. So what happens because of that? There may be decentralization, as we have already studied, as well as those backward areas get the chance to perform better, right? So that is the government interference, or maybe increased role of government. That is trend number 5. Sixth one comes up is competition between the government and institutions. As industry provides job opportunities to the local population, many local organizations attempt to tempt the prospective promoters to establish the units in their areas. They also provide different types of incentives like cheap land, relief in local taxes, etc. Sometimes the subjective or local organization and the government comes into the conflict on the issue of location of industries. See, the local institutions may be providing all their facilities to the for say attracting the industries on one side, and the government may be there on the other side. Now it totally depends that what set of facilities that you want and is available by whom, then accordingly we may take up the decision. Many times what happens is there is a kind of competition between the government as well as the institutions in attracting the industries. So this is how we have checked out with the 6 different points related to the recent trends. Thus, the whole pattern of the decision about the location of industry has undergone the substantial changes in the recent times. Recent times means right at present there are these 6 things that are available, or these 6 options are there, these trends are there, and whatever may be the suitable trend that may be selected by the industry. Here we are ending up with unit number 2, that is for facility location, and it is the end of part 8. Now what we have studied, let us check it out here, because in the next lecture onwards we are going to take up with the practical problems. And before taking up with the practical problems, see, this is the only chapter in which we are going to deal with some kind of numericals, or we may have to deal with some kind of models. But before doing that, let me just brief it once. What is the facility location? See, once the industry decides that, or the person starting with the production decides that what he wants to produce, immediate question to him is where he'll produce. વેર મીન્સ પ્લેસ નક્કી કરે છે. જે પ્લેસ નક્કી કરવાની જગ્યા છે અથવા તો જે ડિસિઝન છે એને ફેસિલિટી લોકેશન ડિસિઝન કહેવાય. વાય ઇટ ઇઝ સો ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ? ઇટ ઇઝ વેરી વેરી ક્રુશિયલ ડિસિઝન, because on this the whole setup of the industry is dependent on this. It takes up a lot of money involvement. It may be so many other things that we may be involving, and that is why it is considered to be very very crucial decision. Because you don't want to make any mistakes, or because some errors are such which are irreparable, then that means તમે એને પાછી એક વખત તમે આ લોકેશન સિલેક્ટ કરવામાં ભૂલ કરો છો તો તમારે જે પછી ઓપોર્ચ્યુનિટી કોસ્ટ જે ભરવી પડે છે that may be really high, and that is why not doing that, or if we don't want to indulge in such kind of error or in such kind of error, then what happens is we must select the four different stages of selecting the location. And if the industry or the industrialist connects with these 4 stages, then it becomes very easy for him to logically select the site. And that is what we have checked out. That is, it includes whether he wants to go domestic, whether he wants to take up with international location. Once he selects that, if he selects domestic, then the next part comes up in which region. When he answers that, the third part comes up is in which locality or in which community. And once he answers that, it comes to the perfect site, that is selection of, at the 4th stage, that is selection of the perfect site. Here we have seen so many factors involved in it. Here we have seen the areas that are available to him in the whole this four stages of selection of a site, right? We have also seen the recent trends available. It's not the say stereotype thinking that only in the urban areas we need to take up, only in the rural area we can take up. There are so many trends available, so many options, and so many aspects that can be considered. And those, after considering those 6 trends, which trends suits him the most, he can select the exact site or his location. So here we are almost ending up with the chapter, with the remaining one single point, that is we are going to check out from the next chapter, or from the next session we'll be checking out with the different models. I wish that whatever we have done up till now should be there in the as a part of notes in your books, right? Because from the next lecture onwards there may be practical problems. I'll be giving the method, how it is connected with selecting the site, how the calculations can be referred. All these things I'll teach you in the next session, and then onwards I may give you 1 or 2 examples to solve, so that the models comes up clearly to you. So that should be the last part of this particular unit, right? So when we meet next, by the time we meet next, it's a goodbye from my side. Take care, and we shall be seeing the last part of this particular unit in the next session to come. By that time, bye. Myself, Kunjan Joshi, signing off. Thank you.